This is the City of Wapaca, third Tuesday of the month, City Council meeting.
Welcome to tonight's regular City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 15th, 2022, and I'll call this meeting to order. And as always, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll ask Sandy to read the open meeting statement for us.
This meeting and all meetings of the Common Council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes so the citizens may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting.
And would you also take roll for us?
Brian Smith.
Here.
Colin Dykstra.
Here.
Lori Chestnut.
Here.
Paul Hagan.
Here.
Alan Keeland. Scott Perchatsky.
Here.
Dave Peterson.
Here.
Paul Mayo.
Here.
And Dimitri Martin. Mary Fair.
Here.
And Eric Olson.
Here.
8 present. We have a quorum.
All right, and as we've done for the last few months, I'll have the department heads introduce themselves. You've heard Sandy, but I'll let her introduce herself.
Sandy Stibbs, City Clerk.
Aaron Jensen, City Administrator.
Kathy Kaza, Finance Director.
Peg Burrington, Library Director.
Jared Raiku, Community and Economic Development.
Justin Behrens, Director of Public Works.
Andrew Whitman, Park and Rec Director.
Wes Zuby, Sergeant at the Police Department.
Thank you, everybody, and Josh is here too. He's just in the back room with us, our IT. So, thank you, everybody. Next up, we have our consent agenda. This is where we take all of these items and make vote on them as if they're a one motion, unless council members would like to see any of these items moved to the regular agenda. If not, we'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as
Move to
printed.
approve. Second.
Motion by Fair, second by Chestnut, that we approve the consent agenda as printed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. Regular agenda, the agenda is unchanged from what you got on the web. And so we'd be looking for a motion to approve the regular agenda as printed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Olson, second by Chestnut, that we approve the regular agenda as printed. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Public input. This is for a non-agenda item. If there's anybody in the audience or staff or council members that would like to speak to us on a non-agenda item, please step up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, limit your time to 3 minutes or less. And Lori, you're ready to go. So.
I'm ready to go. So tonight is a big night for our librarian, Peg. So I'd like to thank her for 24 plus years of service to make the Wapaca Public Library a place that everybody loves to visit. No matter where you go, you hear that. So your time has done so much for so many people in so many ways. So thank you from the community who adores you. So good luck to you in your retirement.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah, if public that's listening, or if council members don't, Peg is retirement is what, Thursday is your last day?
Thursday is my last day.
Okay, so this is her last council meeting tonight. Unless we can come back, get her to come back just one last time.
Didn't look like it.
That didn't look good.
What for? That's a good point. What for?
What for?
All right, any other public input, non-agenda items? All right, let's go into community and department head reports. I know that Jessica Hauser is here. She's going to speak about the Wapaca Fine Arts Festival. So, Jessica, hi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, number one, for having us here. I am Jessica Fletcher Hauser. I am one of the board of directors for Wapaca Fine Arts Festival. Wapaca Fine Arts Festival is part of the Wapaca Area Arts and Culture Network that has been going on for a number of years now. And as a result of that group, we have the Wapaca Cultural Plan that was initiated in 2018. Wapaca Fine Arts Festival is celebrating 59 years of making the arts come alive in Wapaca, something we're very proud of. With COVID, we've been a little distant, but we're on our upswing and on our way back. So, for all of you who don't know, Wapaca Fine Arts Festival was founded by the Wapaca High School choral director, Gerald Kniffel, in 1963. Since that time, the Wapaca Fine Arts Festival and its members, along with generous contributions from citizens of Wapaca and beyond, are responsible for helping to support and bring the arts to Wapaca and our surrounding areas. If you didn't know, our four main branches of the Wapaca Fine Arts Festival include the Wapaca Community Choir and Civic Orchestra, the Wapaca Community Theater, the Wapaca Community Children's Theater, which is now in conjunction with the Wapaca School District, and the Wapaca Art Show. Our mission was and continues to be to foster the arts through promotion and sponsorship of artistic programs, cultural activities, and educational leadership to further promote artistic appreciation to the citizens in Wapaca and the surrounding areas. As my overview, I'm attending this meeting simply to share our upcoming events and share who we are. So there are numerous art boards within our community, but we are still here 59 years later. Part of our background, we'd like to thank you guys as a city and our community. We are honestly blessed and feel very blessed, especially the last couple years, for the opportunity to educationally develop talented singers, musicians, and artists and actors within our local communities. We have discovered new heights for their creative abilities, and the festival's various cultural events that I will list coming up, they have reached thousands of people within our communities in the last 59 years. So as for work we've completed this year, just this last weekend, we were at the Wapaca Country Club, and we had 4 different shows of love letters and hate mail. So that was something that we've done already this year. Our work to be completed coming up in April 3rd, is the Wapaca Community Choir Concert. I should be practicing right now, but I'm happy to be here. So Mr. Wolfgram, Dan is our president of Wapaca Fine Arts Festival. He used to be one of the teachers for the high school, and he is continuing our tradition this year, thankfully, and we will have our community choir concert. Following that, well, actually before that, we're opening the art show. The art show has made some changes in the last couple years. We are happy with our move to the Wapaca Danes Home. We love having the art show there. There will be 3 different nights of entertainment this year. We'll have our opening night entertainment with a band, and then they'll also have a band there on Tuesday and Monday night. Otherwise, it's open to the public to view for different viewing times. Let's fast forward to July. July will be our community theater productions. 2 years ago, we casted this show, and it will be still going on. It is Disney's Little Mermaid, and that'll be July 30th and 31st, August 4th through 7th at the Wapaca High School Performing Arts Center. I'm happy to be assistant directing that show. In the past, my directing has really been with the Children's Theater, and we have some younger directors this year, which is exciting. They've also been waiting 2 years to do their show, and they're doing Disney's Aladdin Jr. That will be July 25th through 28th at the Wapaca Middle School Auditorium. And I'd like to mention again how thankful we are that community program for our children is now in conjunction with Wapaca School District and their summer school program. Again, I want to thank you all for your support and for publishing our events in this month's water bill. And we really look forward to 2023, not that we're skipping this year, but 2023 is going to be a big year of celebrating 60 years of keeping the arts alive in Wapaca. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. All right. Kathy, keep it exciting now.
I'm sorry, I'm going to be a Debbie Downer. Last week, we had the auditors in to do the 2021 preliminary audit, so of course I didn't have any time to do a staff report to put in your packet, but we're on track to have everything ready for them for the final in March, so right now we're starting to review all the final numbers and get everything ready for the audit. So, otherwise, trying to keep everything going.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. Anybody have any questions, comments for Kathy? Peg, did you have time to put something together for us today?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
I'm still loving the library, even though this is my last council meeting. So last year we were able to get.
You love the council meetings, though.
You know, I've enjoyed my time here.
Okay.
So our hotspot grant that we received last year through Community Foundation, we are able to keep that hotspot program going. We have a donor through our Library Foundation and some leftover funding from that grant that will allow us for another year to provide 10 hotspots for our library patrons. We've had a lot of success with this. This is something that is needed in families. Often there's schoolwork involved. Many of the people who borrowed our hotspots have said that it's for job purposes that they needed it, either continuing education, getting a job, looking at jobs that are available. So that is something that will happen again this year. One good thing that's happening in our county right now is that we are seeing fewer COVID cases. And as we see that, we're still at critically high, but our trajectory is shrinking. And we're hoping that by the end of the month, we'll be able to relax our rules about masks in the library and make them optional. We even hear from our Theta Care partners that we expect the cases to really diminish at the end of the month. So that's all good news. And along with the arts that we talked about earlier at the council meeting, we have Youth Art Month at the library. So our exhibit is open. You can visit it in person, and there's an online component. The awards will be given online, so you can go online to our website and find that information if you want to be present for those awards. But really take a look. We have so many talented young people in our community, and it's a pleasure to be able to exhibit their work every year. And that's all I have.
Yeah, thanks, Peg. That's great to mention the art exhibit room, too. I mean, that's one of the things that's in our library that sometimes we forget that's down there, and they do such a great job of different exhibits throughout the year. And this one is really cool. So if you haven't had a chance to get down there and see that art, make sure you do.
The only other thing I want to do is to introduce to you one of our interim directors. Sue Abrahamson is going to be taking over for me during the council meetings and the financial pieces that the library is responsible for. So she's here this evening.
Thanks. Sue, do you want to make any comments as long as we're on the library?
Excited.
Okay.
Excited to join the tribe here.
Okay. She's got a mask on, so I can't tell. She's never. Jarrett, let's go to economic development.
Yeah, so in my staff's report, I did talk about the downtown SWOT analysis that we're looking at doing, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats of our downtown. I did say a tentative date of March 4th was selected. After discussing that further, it does look like we would push that back to later March. It just works better with some of the downtown businesses, gives them more time to arrange their schedules to ensure that they can come so we can try to get the maximum amount of stakeholders possible at this event or this assessment meeting. So I guess I will provide further updates on that as we continue down the road. And then, of course, invites will go out for that too. So more information to come on that. We did host or co-host our Surge Napkin Party with Create Portage County. It was a pretty decent turnout. not as many people from Waupaca as we were hoping. Hoping for some small business owners or other business-minded people to show up at it, but that was not the case for this year, which after talking with Create, that tends to be kind of the first year routine of, first year there isn't a whole lot of turnout, and then second year, as word continues to get out about it and the opportunities it can bring, it produces more, better turnout. So looking forward to that possibly next year. Development updates. One of the ones I guess I would like to mention is involving Ruby's Pantry. So as part of Ruby's Pantry on Fulton Street, given their location and their land use, a condition was put on their conditional use permit that provides them a 6-month review period. So for the next approximate 6 months, a review will occur, just kind of ensuring that truck traffic isn't causing an issue, or whatever the case may be, that their location is adequate and it's not causing any issues. So if there are any issues, feel free to reach out. Just something that we would then look at when we do a final approval of their conditional use permit in approximately 6 months. Then the last thing would be signage. So looking to kind of start looking at our signage code. A while back, if you guys remember, attorney Steve Sorensen from our contracted law firm was in, and he did a signage workshop for the Plan Commission. Some members of council did attend. It was recorded on Facebook if you would like to look back at it. But looking to start to bring some of those discussions to the Plan Commission to kind of get that rolling, get that started, and just start talking about it. So that would be it.
All right. Thanks, Jarrett. Any questions, comments? All right, let's go to Public Works. Justin?
Thank you, Mayor. My report starts on page 6 of the packet. Our digester project is underway. That just started yesterday. So it's great to see one of our major projects start so early in the year and get this project rolling and wrapped up. We're hoping in the midsummer. The reasons we are doing this, the old digester is obviously showing its age. We want to keep maintaining it so we can better maintain our gas production and our sludge production. So if we better maintain those things, we can reduce our cost. And then also our larger digester, which is the newer one, we have to take offline this fall for maintenance, and having this one on backup will for surely help our process. We got an assist from Josh Werner in the IT department with our Mercury minimization program. So we are advertising that we are accepting fluorescent light bulbs, Mercury switches, and Mercury thermometers for free, accepting those here at City Hall. So assist from the City Hall front desk staff, and then also Josh to help us get the word out. It's been very successful. We've done this in past years, but this one has by far, we're 1 year in, 1 month in, and we've already done extremely well. At the lift stations, I've mentioned some issues with clogging. It got better for a little while. It's gotten worse again, so we're going to be upping our efforts for additional education in the future out to the community. Look forward to more IT stuff on Facebook, hopefully with some wastewater guys telling you what to and what not to flush down the toilet. Street side, Main Street is not done. So our decorative LEDs, we have a technician coming later this week on Thursday is the schedule to try and get the lights, the program actually programmed. Josh and I have been trying to tinker with it, and we've been mostly unsuccessful. Been able to change colors just a little bit, but we need this technician to show up, actually download the program, and then show us how it operates. And then from there, we'll start our program and make downtown look fantastic, even more so. And then I should just note in the coming spring, we have a couple items. The poems, they need to be stained. We have to review the trees that were planted. There is a care cycle that has to go, has to be taken with all these trees to make sure they'll survive. And then we're going to re-review the location of all the various amenities, trash cans, benches, bike racks, which we haven't installed, and a few other things of that nature. High and Harrison, which is our next road and utility project. The bid opening is this Friday. So we're crossing our fingers, hoping to get some good bids. We've have quite a few contractors calling, asking questions, so the interest is out there. Looking for an early March approval from council. Outside of that, a lot of snow, a number of smaller events, not big events. So the guys have been busy taking care of that. And then with the help of code enforcement, we did do some sidewalk clearing, enforce our ordinance. So that has been underway this year. We have received complaints of we were not doing a good enough job of that. So I just want to report that we did, in fact, up some of our enforcement on that issue. Water side, the water guys have finished their reporting for DNR and PSC for the annual reporting of our utility. Passes on to finance, and we'll be looking at wrapping those things up here in the near future. Frozen pipes is still an issue, even though sometimes we have these days where it gets to 30 and 40 degrees and people are walking around with t-shirts and shorts already. The ground is still very much froze. So if you've been notified by the water department to take care of your pipes or you have a shallow lateral, just because you have a couple days of nice weather doesn't mean you can just change what you're doing. So please be careful. If you have any questions about what you can do to help prevent those sort of things, please reach out to the water department. Facility side, we have a number of projects here at City Hall, library building that will be completed this year. In the next couple months in meetings, we'll be bringing forward recommendations for the lobby floor, the roof, actually the boiler at Rec Center, and then also PD, we're doing a maintenance, roof maintenance project at PD. The Public Works facility, that's in full swing. We've been talking a lot about how pricing for everything's gone up. This is no exception. So we're putting a lot of effort into designing this building, making it work for us, but then also being very conscious of how we spend our money. I'm expecting to have Myron and Barrientos come before council, maybe in March, to give an update and a review of where we're at with the project, a preliminary plan and estimate. So we're shooting for March. If we can't get that put together quick enough, then it would be hopefully early April. That's about it.
Thanks, Justin. Let me go to Dave first.
Sure.
I see in your report, Justin, that you're taking down the bleachers around Habercorn Field. I didn't go out to see the progress of that. But my concern would be with the light poles for the field that I think, at least in planning, are going to stay with the city and move over to Lakeman Field. Do they have to come down now, or what is the work? Can they work around that? That's the question.
One pole would be in jeopardy as of the way it is now. So that would be taken down. The lights, it's not like we have to just trash them and get rid of them. We take one pole down, we can save it. The other three should be able to remain standing until we come up with a plan of what we want to do with these things. So, there has been discussion of moving those over to Lakeman Field, but that's more of a park and rec decision than mine.
Okay. Did you answer your question?
Best he could.
Well, Andrew, do you have any more to add on that at this time?
No, that's the plan, and that's what's been discussed. It's just a matter of being able to, be able to move forward with that project with the lights, and hopefully, if one does need to come down, we can work with Justin and the guys to find a spot for it until we can make that decision.
Colin, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, I was going to ask about the residential adoption of hydrants and whether or not businesses could also be included in that, as a business could adopt a hydrant.
Absolutely.
Business or whatever, nonprofit or somebody local who's in the area.
For sure. It's an informal program. It's not like you have to sign up, you don't get a certificate or, anything in the mail. You just go out there and you clear off the one that's nearest your property. So, and if you don't do it, then our water utility guys just take the time to go around and do it with our skid steer. It's just a program to try and get and keep the hydrants clear, so in the case that firefighters need it, they're there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Any questions, comments? All right, thanks, Justin. Go to Parks and Rec. Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor, Council members. As you may have seen, we've been doing a lot in the parks with trees. So we took down the pine trees that were by the Swan Park Playground. That's in preparation for the plan of an inclusive playground and splash pad out there. This is a good time of year to get those types of things done for that. You also may have seen some trees on Shadow Lake. So that's in conjunction with the DNR. We're working with them to set some deep water fish habitat structures. So a little bit different than the fish sticks. The fish sticks are the ones that you see sticking out of the water, both spring and summer and fall and all that good stuff. These will be a little bit deeper. So the permit says that they have to be at least 5 feet down, and our goal is to make them 6 to 8 feet down. So the boulders are anchored to the trees. Once the snow and ice melt away, they'll drop down. The thicker part of the trees is in the shallow, and then they'll fall down with the slope of the lake so that they're all deep enough for you. So again, same concept as the fish sticks. You're just trying to create habitat for the small little fish to stay protected and survive so that they can grow bigger. And that's what fishermen want, is bigger fish. So speaking of the splash pad and playground, we had our first initial kickoff meeting with Rettler for the design and engineering. A lot of high-level stuff, water, sewer, that kind of stuff. Justin was very helpful in that meeting as well. So we'll continue through that process, and you'll hear more in the next couple months as we shoot through that timeline for the design and engineering of that. Also some plans that you'll see coming forward here, the bike and ped plan. We worked on some initial action plans and initial mapping. We'll review those. We'll continue shaping those and working through those. And you'll see those coming forward sometime this year to give us an action plan for bike and ped, as well as our lake management plan for Mirror and Shadow Lake. What else we got? Senior Center Supervisor position. We're working through the hiring of that right now. We'll be doing interviews next week. There's a little bit of delay there just as we try to get everyone on the committee schedules lined up. So we have all those interviews or first interviews set up for next week. And we'll go through that process. And if we need to do second interviews, we'll do second interviews and then bring a name and someone forward for you in the future here. So that's about it.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Any questions, comments?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
Are there any plans for trees on Mirror Lake?
So the permit that we got was just for Shadow. We could look in the future for permits in Mirror. I don't think we'd be able to do as many as we're doing on Shadow, but there may be a possibility based on the depth of the lake to do a couple deep water drops. The permit right now is just for Shadow, so we cannot do any in Mirror Lake.
All right. If you haven't noticed, Alan Keelan is a council member, and he is attending virtually, and you just saw him. So he wasn't on at the beginning, but he is now. Let's go to the police department. Wes?
So the police commission did not meet on their February 8th meeting date because Chief Ozell and Captain Helgeson were both at the Chiefs Conference. The department is finalizing the annual report that will be presented to the commission in the March meeting. We are working on getting new cameras that will be installed in our interview rooms that are inside the police department and the front lobby. And the police department had many positive performance reports during the month. Officers Van Dinter and Whitman received one for working with Gold Cross. Officer Hahn received one for finding a mistake in a court order that would have resulted in a gun being released that should not have been. And Officer McCuskey received one for working with an elderly person who was being transported to a mental health facility. The workers involved from DHS and Bethany said his compassion and professionalism is something that really helped the situation.
We're very proud of the way our officers work and the officers we have working for the city of Waupaca. The police department financials will also be, and other documents will be ready in the March meeting.
All right, thanks, Wes. Any questions for Wes? His boss is on, sturgeon fishing right now, so that's what we get Wes tonight. All right, let's go to IT. Josh?
We're doing a lot of work with software. Jerry Allen and I did a demo of some new timekeeping and HR software that we are going to get implemented later this year. Probably will end up being sometime over the summer that we go live on that. It's going to bring some pretty big cost savings and give us a better product. Myself, the Clerk's Department, Community Economic Development, we've been working on implementation of licensing and permitting software, and that's moving along at a slow but steady pace, and we were given an estimate of that going live right at the beginning of August, so still ways to go, but making progress, which is good on that. Been doing some selective Windows 11 upgrades on computers, and I'll be continuing with that as time permits. Durant Popple and I are attending a virtual class on drone training so we can get our, I don't know what the license is called, basically the drone license. So we're working through that process, and I'm hoping in March we can go take the test, and hopefully we pass that. And then on the Wapaca Online side of things, we've got 3 public information meetings about the expansion project, 1 tomorrow and 2 next week, and then we are in process of implementing the latest pricing change.
Thanks, Josh. Any questions for Josh? All right, let's go to the clerk's office. Sandy?
Thank you, Mayor Smith. My report can be found on pages 16 and 17. If council remembers, last December, you appointed election inspectors for the city, and we've been working on a training presentation to get them all up to speed. It'll be for the new workers as well as a refresher course for the city's current inspectors. We have to determine the date yet. And we've also been working with and familiarizing ourselves with the new voting machines, the ImageCast Evolution, and actually trained the 2 chief inspectors on it in preparation for use in the April-spring election. I'm confident that it will streamline the end-of-night duties, for sure. And for the listening public, if anybody's wondering, there is no election today. The next election will be April 5th. So the city did not have a primary today. Other than that, it's just keeping up with the day-to-day and filing reports and that sort of thing. Thank you.
All right, Sandy. Thank you. Aaron?
Thank you, Mayor Smith. My report starts on page 18 of your packet. Go through a few things. Finance director position, just an update on that. So as everyone knows, we are in our second round of recruitment for that. We did reach out to IPR for some assistance in recruiting for that position. We've received a few applications the second time around. Maybe expect a couple more in the next week. We do have our first review date of March 14th. We plan to, as we get candidates in, interview as we go, and we're going to keep it kind of open until filled. We don't want to miss out on any good candidates that may take different positions. As we continue to look for a full-time finance director, that obviously extends our current situation in which Kathy is working 4 hours a day, where we have a half finance director. I'm currently working with Kathy and Jerry, our deputy treasurer, and Shelley, our utility billing clerk, on how can we make sure that we stay up on all of our day-to-day stuff, all of the reporting that Kathy is doing to the state at this time of year, and we're working on some solutions for that may help with answering the phone, taking care of front counter stuff that can have Jerry and that staff focus more on the day-to-day stuff. So you expect to see something in a newsletter coming out soon. Airport manager position, both of those positions, the one position is posted in both of its current structures that are out there. One is a city employee, as we've talked about in our reports in previous meetings, and then one is a private contract and the RFP for that. We have had a little bit of interest in that position as well. I had a phone call last week for someone who plans to submit a private contract proposal, so we'll look forward to reviewing that Friday, March 11th. We will put an interview team together that will include representation from the airport board, Paul as the airport board chairman. And we'll work through the qualified candidates in both of those structures to make a determination that best fits the needs of the airport and the city. Upcoming conferences, I'll be attending a finance conference at the end of this week, Thursday, Friday, and then also on March 3rd and 4th. That will be the City Administrators Conference. Our state association has that. So I will be available by phone or email, so feel free to call and get a hold of me that way. You'll hear more about River North later in this meeting, so I won't go over that. I will talk a little bit on the employee rewards program, evaluations, trainings. We were able to debrief a little bit as department heads this morning in a department head meeting after the Fox Valley Tech trainings that were 4 hours each on a couple Thursdays and last Tuesday. I think dates are in here. February 3rd and February 8th. I have January, that's not right. The trainings went well. There was a lot of engagement from our supervisors. We had about 22 supervisors in attendance, focused on evaluation principles as well as setting SMART goals. So I just want to thank all of our staff for participating in that and for our department heads for having these conversations over the course of months and months to come up with as good of a program and as good of a proposal as we possibly can. I also want to thank Mayor Smith for being involved in that process as we've navigated it. Council can expect to see something very soon on that. CPR AED trainings, we did have a medical emergency in the library recently, and that I was really happy with how library and other city staff responded to that, including police department, including someone from City Hall. But it did cause us to reflect on where are we at with CPR AED certifications. Found that 27 of our staff members currently are certified. That does not include the police department, but we serve the public every day. These things happen more often than you think. And we will be providing 2 more trainings at the end of March so we can get additional employees certified. We did have somebody that was certified that responded immediately to the situation in the library. That was a library staff employee. Other than that, I just want to say thank you to Peg. Peg, you have done an excellent job as a library director for many, many years. The library is one of the premier libraries for a community our size specifically. And there's a lot of passion and a lot of community support around it. You deserve a ton of credit for your role in that, along with your team. So thank you for all of your years. And yeah, congrats. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thanks, Aaron. Any comments, questions for Aaron? All right, let's go right into unfinished business then. We have one item under unfinished business, and that has to do with ordinance number 02/2022. It's an ordinance amending chapter 17 of the zoning code. And this is the second reading. So, Jared, you want to just catch us up on what this ordinance is and if you had any comments or not?
Yeah, of course. So this starts on page 67 of your packet. This is the second reading. This is in regards to restaurants. So looking to kind of loosen up the restrictions on restaurants, try to encourage more to go in. Pretty much changing conditional use permits in the B4 district all to permitted uses, or conditional uses to permitted uses, and then as well as restaurants other than drive-in fast food, changing them so they are permitted across the commercial board except for B6. So those would really be the big changes. A red line can be found on page 68 to see the exact highlighted changes. But happy to take any questions if any have come up.
All right. Anybody have any questions? All right. So since this is the second reading, we're looking for a motion to approve this ordinance.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Chestnut, second by Prochatsky, that we approve ordinance number 02/2022. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Colin Dykstra.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
and Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
All right, thanks, Jarrett. Next up, this is under new business. This has to do with the pre-development services development agreement with Hoffman Development Group. And just to set this up, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. A memo starts on page 70 of your packet. Just to give a little background, this whole conversation really started when we went through our comp plan update. Andrew Dane, who's online, is our staff member that worked with community members, plan commission, city council as we went through that process, which started in January of 2020. It ended 15 months later in March of 2021. And throughout that process, we talked about land use. We talked about the future land use map. And at the end of it, it was the plan was updated with the conversation and the thought, and the future land use map updated to reflect changes in the business and technology park that would allow for neighborhood mixed use, residential, commercial, and that type of land use. So that brings us to just a few short months ago when the city council voted to change the zoning from I-2 to R3, which is heavy industrial, to multifamily residential. That zoning was on the 80 acres of city-owned parcels that is within the proposed River North subdivision. And over the last several months throughout this fall, we sent a request for proposals out for potential master developers, development services. Hoffman Development Group, who's with us tonight, was one of the responses to that. We've had a number of meetings with not only them, but other respondents. The last few months, we've had no less than 8 meetings, probably more. And we've worked to this point to come to an agreement on pre-development services and master development services that gets us to the next step. So you can see that agreement is attached to the memo. Another thing I've attached to the memo is the response to the city's request for qualifications. So that's something that came in months ago. Because this process has taken a while, you're seeing it now for the first time. Just a few highlights, the terms of this agreement. We're looking at a 12-month term with an option to extend it based off of successful developments in the areas that we're looking to pinpoint first. The cost to the city for this agreement not to exceed $25,000 for pre-development services. Within the attachments, there are charts that will show the value that the city is receiving in that, and some of the costs that HDG also has tied into that process. Services received, you can see wetland delineation, review of housing and commercial market studies, environmental phase 1 reports, survey mapping, planning level cost estimates, phasing for public infrastructure, and site plan for Area 1. One of the larger at-risk services is the feasibility study that HDG will talk about in their presentation. And without going on any further, I'm going to just go ahead and introduce Steve Willey and Seth Hudson, who have been on every one of those 8+ meetings. And they have put a little presentation together to tell you a little bit about HDG and their interest in the River North project. So, thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, everyone, for being here and carving out a little bit of time to hear what we're up to and to give you a little introduction about our team. Just a little background before I introduce Seth about myself. Been in the industry for about 35 years as as a few things, both a planner and an architect, schooled in architecture, as well as a construction manager. So in and throughout the 35 years, I've actually been at Hoffman Planning, Design, and Construction, as well as Hoffman Development Group, and I'll go into that in just a second, for about 20 of those 35 years. So have been at this for quite a while. I actually also lead our commercial and industrial markets as far as pursuit of those types of projects. So with that, I'll step away, we'll introduce Seth, and we'll get going on the rest of this.
Good evening, Seth Hudson with Cedar Corporation. So really quick, my background is economics and political science. I've been doing economic development now. I just did the math again, 25 years. You know, that's good to a certain point, and then it starts getting bad. But for quite a while, across the country, I actually grew up in a small town in Maine, and here I am in Wisconsin. So I didn't get any better on the weather. But so at Cedar, I'm the Director of Economic Development and Strategic Development. Cedar Corporation's been around since the early 70s, and we are an integrated services company and work for over 90 communities as their extended staff. So we help them with planning, zoning, wastewater, civil engineering, and I do most of the economic development work. So we help with business attraction, retention, housing studies, TIF, things of that nature. So that's a quick little synopsis of who Cedar is and my background and how it all, you'll see how it all fits together here in a minute. So.
Thank you, Seth. Before we go much further, I just wanted to give a little overview about Hoffman Development Group and Hoffman Planning, Design, and Construction. So with that, Hoffman Planning, Design, and Construction is an entity that's been around for about 130 years. Since 1892, have been providing planning, design, and construction services throughout the country. We'll get into some of the markets that entity provides services to in a minute, but wanted to also get into the discussion about how Hoffman Development Group, who's the entity that proposed on this development, happened to come about. It's basically an outcropping of Hoffman Plan, Design, Construction, who actually owns Hoffman Development Group, and we've been pursuing projects throughout the country in that entity as Hoffman Development Group. And in so doing, have developed a partnership with Cedar Corporation, who Seth is with, and with that we are actually pursuing many and have pursued many projects together. If we could go to the meeting objective, next slide. So just wanted to briefly go over an agenda basically for the few minutes that we have for our introduction here. Why Hoffman Development Group and Cedar Corporation is one of the slides. Next one is our team structure and approach, the next steps, and any questions you may have. So we'll go over that here shortly. If we could go to the next slide. So why our team? We have a combined 160 years of development experience. So as I mentioned before, Hoffman Planning, Design, and Construction, again, affiliated with Hoffman Development Group, has been in business for 130 years. Cedar Corp for also 30 years. And with that, our combined entities work together on projects throughout the Midwest and throughout the country, actually. And with that, we are happy to be a part of this discussion today about the River North project. As far as experience, the next point, experienced master planners and builders. Master planning, if you're unfamiliar with the term, is really kind of understanding not only the geography of where we plan to put a development, but also the adjacent uses of that development. So what we plan to do, and we'll get into this in a bit, but we plan to really scour the River North development, the 80 acres that exist there, and make sure that what we're putting there fits not only the community, but also the market study, which we'll get into in a bit. So next, we're a one-stop shop, turnkey design, build, finance, development team. That's a lot of words to try to describe that we are the single entity that will provide the development for this area, this 80 acres that exists over here. So we basically manage and deliver the entire development. We have access to institutional investors is the next point. And what we mean by that is we will work at risk up front to provide services as well as the development itself. Once we get to a certain point, we will turn to investors to promote the project, to market it, and to close financing. And that's basically how we plan to do this project. So those people, those investors, will be the owner-operators, at least of the multifamily piece. And as we move into the single-family portion of this project, those will be single entities, single people that will purchase those sites and will develop those sites, and we will manage that as well. So just to kind of get a little bit of a separation between of what's happening there. Owner investors will be part of the multifamily, and single entity people will be part of the single family home development that happens within this as well. We have next bullet. We have partnered with hundreds of municipalities and private clients. That just basically means that we've been doing this a long time with many different types of entities. For decades, we've been partnering with those entities, both public and private, and to successfully and collaboratively deliver many different types of projects. So we've been at this for quite a while. And lastly, we act as your single source of responsibility for design through financing to construction. As the sole developer, we'll collaborate with the city of Waupaca, with the community itself, and understanding, and we'll go over this in a bit, what the market study tells us and what it produces as far as information to deliver the development and to benefit, obviously, the city and the community of Wapaca. Next slide, please. Just wanted to touch on the markets that Hoffman focuses on, and then I'll turn it over to Seth to introduce and to focus on some of the markets that Cedar Corp focuses on. But as you can see up on the screen, we've got women's religious, hospitality, education. I'll stop there at education. Many years ago, Hoffman Planning, Design, and Construction did your, not only designed, but constructed your high school. Manufacturing, financial, senior living, and finally residential. And the reason we focus on this is because each of these markets complement each other. When you look at a community, every one of these markets, every one of these sectors really kind of, they have a super complement with each other with regard to how each depends on the next. And if you look at it, it's commerce and residential. And in this situation, especially with the city of Wapaca and the River North development, cities need, as every city does, a balance of both residential and commerce. One feeds the other. So that's, I think, what we can gain from that is in the River North development, while it focuses on residential, at least in the future, and there are commerce and other things that are around that development, each will have to, well, there's a balance to be struck there. We'll figure that out as we move forward as far as the market study and what that produces as far as information, but there's a definite synergy between commerce and residential and how to successfully integrate the two. Now, for Seth.
Next slide, please. So the other thing about Cedar Corporation, as I mentioned, our work in the public sector, we also work in the private sector as well and have for a number of years. So, for example, we are one of the preferred site developers for Menards when they put in new locations, so our civil engineers do that. We also have an architectural group, and these are some of the segments that we work in. What's not up here is multifamily. We're actually finishing one in Eau Claire as we speak with another developer, so we've been in that as well. So, but again, it's a lot of the same stuff you'll see. We actually have the one area that our two firms complement each other in is we both have architects, but besides that, we're completely separate, so we support each other's work from that point forward. So, but again, we do everything from retail. I like the distillery, by the way. That's one of my favorites. Event, pavilion, resorts, a lot of specialty restaurants. We also do a lot of chain work as well for places like Culver's and Taco Bell's, et cetera, but office space in the lower left. So, and then some of that neighborhood serving retail as well. So, all right, next slide, please. So this was part of our response that at RFP, just to kind of show you our team structure to try to make things simple as possible. So obviously the idea is we've got the city at the top with community input. It's not meant to be on the side. It's meant to show that as we're communicating through to the community, we want that community input as we move forward. Hoffman Development Group is the lead. And then underneath it, you've got Cedar Corporation providing our services, and then Hoffman Planning, Design, and Construction providing their services. And again, the idea here is a single point of contact, which is Steve, as we go forward on it. But you have one entity that's doing all the work. And we'll talk about some of that as we move forward. So our development philosophies. So we look at this with all of our projects. We're here to serve the city and help you achieve your vision, what you would like to see as part of the development. As we mentioned, we're vertically integrated again, so we can provide all the services. The only area that we can't do is if somebody needed some soil borings, we outsource that, but we have our own in-house wetland delineators, surveyors, environmental, construction management, architects. And why that's important is it saves time and money because we're working as one. So if we have an issue with anything on site, we can talk amongst our team. We're all on the same page to move things forward. And then, of course, we have that finance component. So we know what the institutional investors are looking for, and our team can put that up front in place to them and be responsive as needed. So, and then, of course, both of our companies pride the fact on our quality, timeliness, and that we're on budget to meet the goals and objectives of the project. So really quick on the financing, just to kind of explain a little bit how we approach this. So we provide a lot of our services at risk on what's called the pre-development work. So those are things like the upfront site planning, master design, the cost estimates that go with it, testing the market, going out and meeting with the investors, in a sense, selling the projects to them, putting together performers, budgets, lining up the financing. All of that is time and money that developers, work on. Some communities will put some of that money in up front through a TIF or something along those lines. This is stuff that we're at risk for, except for a few items that we'll talk about in a minute. And then we obtain the financing commitment during that pre-development period before the site is shovel ready. And then we close on the financing, and that's where we become fee-based. We get a small fee as part of that to go into the project, and we go forward from there. So kind of high level, but that's the approach. You want to add anything to that? No? Okay. So on the development itself, so the image you see on the right is the exact same drawing, except for one area that I'll point out that was in the RFP that was at the beginning of the presentation, which was your conceptual plan. What we did was we took a look at it from our site civil, and we divided up the site in terms of how it could potentially be built out in phases of some sort. And we're calling them areas because we're not sure what's going to happen first. So one of the things that has started is a market study to look at the site to understand what's going on in the marketplace, what's the demand, which is very important when you're putting your numbers together, right? What's the potential absorption rates, costs, things of that nature. So our development is going to be based on that market study, which should be back in a few weeks, and then we start looking at the development. The other thing we looked at was what projects could we start sooner than later based on what we know is going on in the marketplace today. I'll come back to the minute, and needs the least amount of public support. What's great about this site is you have utilities all the way around it, right? Your infrastructure is there. That's wonderful. As you start going into the site and laying out homes, you've got to put roads in, public roads, public infrastructure. What we're looking to do in the lower left corner, that kind of pinkish red color, we're calling that Area 1. Our goal is to start in that area first because all we need to do to bring in is some very basic infrastructure to get that site up and running and going without major investments into streets and running major utilities through the property. The other reason why we're looking at that site is we've talked to a couple of the businesses in the community, and we're actually going to have another conversation tomorrow morning, hopefully. There is a strong need for workforce housing in this community, right? And it's not just here. I just came from the state's Economic Development Conference, and this was the #1 issue. The state of Wisconsin, just like the United States, has a labor shortage. We have got companies who can't bring in more work because they can't find the workers. When they find the workers, they have no place for those workers to live. So they come in, and maybe they take the job, they try to find a house, they can't find it, they move on to someplace else. So the idea here is to deliver some multifamily that fits in that workforce housing level to immediately take care of some of the needs from some of the businesses that we've talked to, and we're talking about potentially partnering with them on this project. So that's what's driving Area 1 as the project. After that, then we're going to look at the market study and figure out what could happen next, and it could be a combination of multiple colors, it could be one color over the other, et cetera. The other thing I just want to point out real quick is, because if you look at this later, in the upper right corner, you'll see an area that's in yellow designated wetlands. And then just to the left of it, we switched what was originally the conceptual plan. Originally, it showed some retail space and then some homes. And we switched those two around to remove a road to reduce some costs. And we also switched that around because the area that was designated for a stormwater pond is actually a wetland, and you cannot put water straight into a wetland. You got to go to a pond first and then the wetlands. So that gives us a little bit more room. I just want to point that out if anyone's checking. And again, this is still conceptual in terms of how many units, things of that nature. We're waiting for that market study. But the general layout of roads and utilities actually matches the topography of the site, and fits very nicely in with the hill and how the water breaks on the site and where there's existing wetlands. So,
You can leave it there. Thank you, Seth.
Oh, wait, one other quick thing, very important, is the goal for what we're trying to do here is the value off the first project area, to generate value out of that project area on its own that could be used then to help cover costs for future infrastructure in the next phases, right? So that we're not asking for lots of money up front to put roads in and things of that nature, right? So the idea is to have one TIF area, if you will, one project area through its taxes, through the TIF process, to then help the next process. And then that process, let's just call it the orange area for now, then that gets built out, that adds value, and then helps with the next project so that it's built upon that growth over time.
All right, thank you, sir. Lastly, on this slide, I'll go back to point 3. We're not necessarily home builders, but we manage it. So with that, what we'd like to be able to do as we move into that area in the green, yellow, orange area and blue areas is soon after an agreement could be signed for this developer agreement and professional services agreement, we would start engaging with local and regional home builders to start gauging interest for those types of developments. So just wanted to clarify that. Next slide, please. So steps. You'd heard a little bit about the market study, and of course the TID is apparently in some kind of process right now. We're not sure exactly how far, but with that, the market study, as Seth mentioned, will be ready in about 4 weeks. And based on what that says, we'll look at the product mix of what could be put on this 80-acre site, in addition to some of the things that we've already heard with regard to the multifamily in Area 1. Obviously, tonight we are in the third bullet, approval of the Master Development Professional Services Agreement. Once that is in route and is signed, then we'll start looking at environmental phase 1s, surveys, boundary maps, and all kinds of other things that will feed the information that we'll need to start planning, start doing the master plan for what really makes sense on the 80 acres. So master planning of the development site. Next bullet would be the pro forma development by area for the entire development. What Seth was talking about last was we need certain developments to happen in order to generate dollars, in order to reinvest those dollars into the further development of roadways and infrastructure for the rest of the development. So all of those dollars that are being generated are going right back into the development. Run financials to determine viability and each standalone area. So as we move forward, there will be separate development agreements for each area. We have 6 areas identified right now. The development agreement that we're talking about tonight is for the entire development, but as we move forward, there will be separate development agreements for each of the areas. So as we move forward with those, we'll be running financials to determine just viability, obviously back-checking with the market study and what product will sell best within each of those areas. Marketing of each of the areas to the local and regional parties. We talked a little bit about that with regard to local participation, not only for the single-family home development, but also the multifamily. The way our system works is we will encourage and invite as many local subcontractors to build the multifamily and any other product that ends up on this site. So we're not a general contractor as Hoffman Planning, Design, and Construction. We're a construction manager, which encourages local participation, and that's what we'll be shooting for on this one for sure. Lastly, design and construct the first project within Area 1. Seth talked a little bit about Area 1 and what that means, and as far as that pinkish, reddish area. We'll start with that to try to get that underway and get TIF dollars rolling. So, but again, to reemphasize the design and construction of those areas are going to be and plan to be managed by us and as serving as your developer. So with that, let's start with any questions if we can.
Anybody have any questions? Paul, go ahead.
Where do the majority of your investors for the project come from?
So, pardon me. The typical that we will approach, and we, not yet for this project, but in our typical process, we will be approaching investors from all over the country. Some will be from this area, but as we approach most, it'll be from typically outside this area. This will be a fairly large development as far as its dollar volume. So we'll need to approach people that can be a part of that cost.
So one of the other members of HDG has 25 to 30 years of Wall Street equity investment experience. That's what he was. So he's our connection to institutional investors, large banks that are across the country that are looking for projects like this. So it's not, I say it that way because we've also done projects, hotel projects, for example, in local communities, and there's nothing wrong with this where you have to go out and raise, $500,000-$600,000 from 7 people to try to make a project work. That's not what we're doing here. This is a much larger, bigger project, more sophisticated investors.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions?
I have
Yep, Scott, go ahead.
Concerning the single-family homes, do you anticipate somebody, a builder, buying a block of these lots and then putting spec homes up, or how does that work out?
We'll be putting together standards for those houses. So spec or not, they'll have to at least match those standards, first of all. Secondly, yeah, we definitely we'll be talking and engaging in those conversations about what type of housing and who actually has the capacity in order to build those.
Okay. Anybody else? Colin, go ahead.
You referred to the size of the project a couple of times, both of you. What do you estimate as the size of this project as far as dollar-wise?
As in total investment?
Yeah.
Not really sure yet because we're waiting for that market study to tell us. I mean, what we're hoping to build is the conceptual plan. If you go forward a slide or two, I think we actually have, or back, you could go the opposite direction. After the thank you slide, there's more slides just in case we need one more of that one. I mean, that something along this lines is what we're envisioning here. The market study is going to tell us, does it make sense to build this many single-family homes? And more importantly, yeah, you can, but it's going to take us 100 years, right? That's the absorption rate. So we're not quite sure yet. I can tell you that in that lower left, our first area that we're looking at, we're looking 120 to 140 units for multifamily. You're talking $18 to $20 million just for that project alone, or about 300,000, give or take, in property taxes coming in off that one building. So
to be used for evidently a TIF district to
that'd be captured
reinvest.
by the TIF. Yep, that could be captured and reinvested. Yep. So I'm sorry to punt on you, but I'm not quite sure yet until we see that market study to determine that makeup. So.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Aaron, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, if there's no other questions or comments, I'm just going to go back to my memo. I know council probably has had the opportunity to review that agreement. I kind of gave the highlights already. We would be recommending approval of this agreement, which again is a 12-month term, with the option to extend it upon successful agreements or successful developments. So that's what we'd be looking for from council.
Thanks, Aaron. So if you were to look back on page 70,
Yeah, my memo 70 and 71.
is the memo, and then the agreement starts on page 72.
Correct.
And that's an agreement that was put together in combination with Hoffman and the city. This has been reviewed by our attorney and their attorney, of course. And so we've had a couple of drafts back and forth, but this is what we're proposing that you vote on tonight, if you so choose to do that. So we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
This is Keelan, move to approve.
Second.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. We have a motion by Keelan, second by Hagan, that we approve of this agreement, pre-development services and development agreement with Hoffman Development Group. Any further for an amount not to exceed $25,000.
I just wanted a point of clarification.
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind. So this is for the first 12 months, and if we choose to move forward with them, then that would be our option, but this only commits us to this first portion of the process. Is that correct?
That's correct, Paul. And just to be transparent, so what we're thinking is that this gives us the option to do the pre-development services needed to really dive into that area one, and gives them the opportunity to show us that we can execute on area one. And if that goes successful, the intent would be to continue with subsequent agreements with HDG for future areas.
That's what I was thinking you were meaning, so thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
All right, anybody else? Good question. Colin, go ahead.
How does the approval of this affect the WIDA grant and the agreement that we made a couple of months ago with the organization that we agreed to sell 5 acres to for $1 just south of the Fox Valley Technical Institute?
That's a great question, Colin. That's something that we've talked about with HDG. So we entered into that agreement before we really got deep into the weeds on this. So if we were awarded that, we would still plan to work with that group to execute that project. We would work with HDG because they're our master developers on the ideal location for that. We did specify a location, but we also know that that can move. So that would be the plan. It would be to execute that project with Mosaic.
So to clarify, you had mentioned that you changed the road. In the agreement we had, there was a road there that you guys wanted to put in to do this WIDA housing. What you're saying is that road is not set in stone. So this does not prevent us from doing that.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? All right, this is a contract, so we'll have Sandy call a roll.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Ellen Keeland,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
and Mary Fair.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
All right, well, thank you, and I just want to mention a few things. We've worked with Steve and Seth, and you guys got to see them tonight, but if you look in the packet, you'll see all the people that are involved with Hoffman Corporation. We have met with them for, I would say, probably 2 months almost every Thursday to put this together. So we have a pretty good feeling of exactly what we're getting here. And they've also worked with our attorney and also worked with Robert W. Baird. So we feel like we're going to be able to get going right away on this thing. So thanks, you guys. Looking forward to working with you in the future. All right, let's move on then to our next new business item. This has to do with the City of Waupaca's ARPA supported home repair grant. And again, if you didn't notice, Andrew Dane is on remotely with us tonight, and he's been instrumental, obviously, and he's been very instrumental in putting together a project that you've heard about and discussed. But I'll let Aaron set this up, and then Andrew, if you would just chime in on things that you feel need to be said.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. So on page 99 of your packet, you'll see the City of Wapaca proposed home repair grant guidelines. And these are the guidelines that came to you about a month ago, and then we took some input, amended those guidelines based off of that input, and this was the last version you've seen. Nothing has been changed since that time. Again, this is a program that we are looking to or proposing that we use ARPA dollars for. We have approximately $625,000 that is coming in from ARPA. We've received half of it. We received the other half within a very short time, we would expect. And this is an eligible requirement as long as we tie it to people that have been negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. You can see in there, and as we've talked about many times, we're looking at having an impact on homes that are built in 1970 or prior. All of the information as far as eligibility we have gone through over the past several meetings. Again, no changes from what we've talked about over the past month plus. So I guess with that, I'll just open it up to any questions. We would be looking to vote on this tonight. We did list it as an action item.
All right, anybody have any questions? Again, starts on page 99, and as Aaron has said, you've seen this before, and we repeated it again at the last meeting, and so we're ready to get going on this. If you guys think it's a good idea to approve this, and we'd like to get moving on it in the spring sometime here. So
I'd move to approve.
Second.
okay, we got a motion by Mayo. Who was the second? I'm sorry, Eric Olson, to approve the City of Wapaca's ARPA supported home repair grant. Any discussion? All right, Sandy, will call the roll.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Colin Dykstra.
Nay.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Ellen Keeland.
Aye.
And Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
All right. Thanks, Aaron. Andrew, thank you. All right, let's move on then. Again, this is C in your packet, 9C. This is for a conditional use permit for Wisconsin Public Service Corporation. And Jared, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. This starts on page 102 of your packet. This is a conditional use permit request by WPS and ATC, American Transmission Company, for 440 River Street. Currently on the site, there is an existing electric utility equipment facility. So what they are looking to do is actually add to it. As such, just kind of or amending their conditional use as they had already received one back in the 1990s when they did some larger work on the property. So coming through, since somewhat of a substantial change to the property, they're adding a couple additional control facilities, battery backup, just additional equipment. So they're coming back through for an amendment to essentially expand on what they already have. It's not expanding a significant amount. It's still staying within, out of all wetlands and out of all floodplain. So nothing too significant with it. The conditions can be found on page 107, and they are all fairly straightforward and accompany most conditional use permits. I can take any questions on it if there are any.
So, Jared, I actually had a resident call me today, and it was just a basic question from them. And residents that live in that area, they're not going to see any change.
No, from what I can see in the application, there would not be any substantial changes. This is in the northernmost portion of this electric utility area, so there's a portion more towards the river, further up on North Harrison, and then there's a facility down south further, and that one kind of abuts residential. The work being completed is on the northern half, and with the vegetation, the berming of that site, I don't even think anyone would realize anything was changing in there. And then I do believe we have Bobby Anderson on Microsoft Teams, if he had any more comments related to that question.
No, good evening. Thanks, Jared. We're going to be staying within the existing footprint of that substation, of the land owned by WPS. And then ATC is there by easement, so we're just asking for a conditional use permit to bump that fence out so we can maintain some NESC safety clearances from equipment.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else have any questions? All right, looking for a motion.
So move.
Motion by Dave Peterson, second by Lori Chestnut, that we approve of the conditional use permit with Wisconsin Public Service Corporation. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Colin Dykstra.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
And Alan Keeland.
Abstain.
8 ayes, motion carried.
All right, thanks, Jared, but you're up again here. This is a conditional use permit for T-Mobile Central by SBA Network Services, LLC.
Thank you, Mayor. This starts on page 114 of your packet. So this is at 250 Bailey Street, which is actually a property we own, or the city of Wapaca owns. T-Mobile and SBA have a leased area within this parcel that they do put their equipment on. So kind of came up when they originally brought forth a site plan proposal to replace their existing generator. It was found that that generator and some other equipment wasn't within the leased area. So they did have to re-go through the process, redefine the leased area, rework out a contract. So now that that has all been completed, they are coming back through to get a new conditional use for that new leased area. So then they can move forward with a site plan permit to replace an existing generator on the site. And a picture of the leased area can be found on page 115. And then conditions can be found on page 120 of the packet. Again, fairly simple conditions relating to the approval of the site plan, approval of the conditional use permit, any changes. So I can take any questions if there are any.
Yeah, thanks. Jared, I should mention, as I should have mentioned on the last conditional use permit, both of these were recommended by City Planning Commission to be approved. Anybody have any questions? We're looking for a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Fair, second by Hagan, that we approve of the conditional use permit for T-Mobile Central by SBA Networks LLC, Network Services LLC at 250 Bailey Street. Sandy will call the roll.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
and Eric Olson.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Jared. Next up, we have another one for you. Certified survey map for Laura K. Peterson, 215 North Morton Street.
Thank you, Mayor. So this one starts on page 141 of your packet. This is an application for a certified survey map. They are looking to section off a small piece of a larger parcel. They had put a proposed proposed use as a cell tower. There has been no applications for a conditional use for a cell tower or a site plan application for a cell tower. So nothing has come forward yet for any of that. This is just simply a certified survey map splitting the land. So everything with the certified survey map did check out and was in compliance, and all lot standards appeared to be compliant. So recommending this for approval, and then the Plan Commission recommended it for approval as well.
Thanks, Jared. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead, Colin.
This is within sight of the cell tower that we were just talking about?
Yes. So on page 142, so if you look directly to the underneath that square that says Lot 1, where it says survey note and it has some of that latitude, longitude data, right there is actually where the other cell tower, water tower, and those items are. So it is directly adjacent to it.
Is there even the possibility to permit another cell tower there?
So that would really be up to FCC, I believe. All of the regulations for that would go through them. We would just take a look to make sure it's meeting our site plan requirements. They would have to provide, approval from the FCC and all of the other entities in order to get the site plan approval, of course.
Why don't they do that first?
So that's possibly what they're going through right now, since we have not received any site plan applications. But the certified survey map is that initial check mark that they would have to meet to do. So I assume they're kind of simultaneously working on this and working with the FCC. Typically, the owner of the property would hire out a consultant too that does this frequently, as there are quite a few regulations that they would have to adhere to.
The cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart? Is that what you're thinking? Yeah. We really have very little control over where towers go. We can't even really zoning regulate those. So this is the one place that we could have made a difference here, but the property owner is okay with it. So yeah.
Move to approve.
Motion by Olson.
Second.
Second by Keelan, that we approve of the certified survey map for 215 North Morton Street. Any discussion? Any more discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Abstain.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
and Colin Dykstra.
Nay.
A?
I'm sorry, nay.
Nay. Okay, I'm sorry. 7 ayes, motion carried.
Okay, next up, we have, thank you, Jared. I think you can relax now. We have ordinance number 03-2022. This is an ordinance amending the municipal code, chapter 12.17 of the, and has to do with commercial tree trimmers. This is the first reading of this ordinance, and this is Justin.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is shown on page 144 of the packet. As the mayor alluded to, Chapter 1217, the commercial tree trimmers, and what that is any tree trimmer, any company that wants to cut down trees down within the city limits, has to be permitted to do so. So they come into City Hall, get a permit, and we review it. Typically, the review is myself and discussing with those tree trimmers are some do's and don'ts and what we expect. And then also the city attorney signing off that what they've provided for insurance coverages is adequate to cover the city in case of an issue. Cutting trees down within the city can be difficult work with the density of homes and people. So there's a lot of liability there. So what the change is doing, since we have adjusted our how would you say that? Our attorney structure. Our attorney is no longer across the street, but in Milwaukee. So what we did was adjusted the wording within the ordinance just to spell out what the minimum coverages we were looking for. So with that, we would no longer need the attorney to review. As long as it meets this ordinance, then I'm allowed to sign off on it, making it just one less step, a little bit more efficient, both time and cost-wise. So that's the change of this ordinance, Mayor.
All right. Does everybody understand? Okay, we're looking for a motion to approve.
Whoa.
Oh, first reading, thank you.
Well, if you want to.
He got you there.
Yeah, he did. I know better than to respond to Justin. Am I saying that out loud? All right, thanks, Justin.
You're welcome.
You're still up here. We have a City Hall lobby floor replacement.
Yes. Next page, 145, is the memo detailing this work. So this is the lobby in between City Hall Library within this building. So this last summer, this flooring, it's a tile floor, started popping up. We have a section now where you may have not even noticed, we covered it up with rugs. A pretty good sized section where the tile is just completely removed. We looked into it, did a sound test, and found out that a majority of that floor is failed, meaning that the adhesive or the grout underneath of it is no longer holding it down. Being original with the building, we've done quite a bit with replacement and maintenance of this building. It just seems to be time to replace that. Last year, we did look into several options if we could just fix it, do an easy patch, repair. Came to the conclusion eventually that we should just hold out, replace it, and budget it, put it in our capital plan for this year. Budgeted $30,000 to replace it. Put it out for sealed bids with the help of Russ Montgomery, our facility superintendent, and we received 3 sealed bids back, which are listed on the memo shown there. So we got a wide range, but a couple good numbers. What we're also looking for, looking for approval to hire that low contractor, Gager Tile, out of Green Bay. But then also a contingency, because for a couple reasons. Once we start removing flooring, sometimes you find unexpected things underneath. So we would have a little bit of a contingency set aside to fix those spots. We don't know if we would use the contractor or our own staff, but because we don't know what we might find. The other thing is we have the date stone in the middle with the date capsule underneath. We need to replace that stone, which is going to be a little added cost. So we're still working on the details of how we would have that marked out within the center of the lobby floor. So we're assuming, though, that little extra tile or piece in the middle, custom piece, is going to be an extra $300-400 to figure that out on top of what we have. So if we don't, obviously it's a contingency. If we don't need to use it, we definitely will not. So I don't know if this has to be a separate action, but I put it in as one to have award the project to Gager out of Green Bay, and then also to give us a $2,000 contingency for the date stone and then also the unknown.
So that $2,000 is covering the unknown.
If we, yes, in the event we pull up the old tile and we find something unexpected that we have to somehow fix or do a little extra effort and work.
So if it's more than 2,000, you'll be back here asking for more? Or do you want, I mean, I just want to make sure that we're not slowing anything down here once you get going.
That's a possibility. I think it's a pretty comfortable number though, Mayor.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions? Eric, go ahead.
With the low bid that we're probably going to be picking here, is there a warranty on that? Or do you know anything about this company?
Yes, they have put in bids and proposals on some of our other flooring projects. They're a reputable company out of Green Bay. There is a warranty, I believe, 25 years on that, on this new tile that we're calling out. It's not a ceramic tile. It's like kind of like that engineered rubbery kind of tile.
Okay.
What was that? VCR? Isn't that what you put in the, is that cassette? VER? Excuse me.
Okay, anybody? Eric, did he answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
In a rather roundabout way, but. Yeah.
I forgot what the question was.
Anybody else? Paul, go ahead.
I see here that it looks like you specified the exact tile for the bids, so.
Yes.
So really, what can go wrong as far as the different companies other than, say, the installation? So.
Well, like I said, once you tear out the old, sometimes you uncover the unexpected.
Yeah, I
That's where the
understand.
contingency is. That
What I just was commenting that is with the different costs of the bids.
Oh.
That they have to be comparable, correct?
yes, they are. The differences in the prices. I mean, if one has a better supplier, but more or less the labor to remove and install is the difference that you're seeing there.
Okay.
Okay, so anybody else? So if you'd like to make a motion, the motion would be to, or it's being recommended that we enter into an agreement with Gazier Tile Incorporated of Green Bay for an amount not to exceed $16,240 plus an additional contingency of $2,000 if needed.
Lacking a better way to say that myself, I make that in the form of a motion.
Thank you, Paul.
I'll second.
So we got a motion by Hagan, second by Chestnut to approve this agreement with Gazier Tile Incorporated. Any further discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
and Paul Hagan.
Aye.
9 ayes, motion carried.
All right, next up, we have license report number 1566. This is operator's license. You have, 5 names on there. We'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Chestnut, second by Peterson, that we approve license report number 1566. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against, say no. Motion carried. Next, we have communications recommendations of the mayor. I really have nothing tonight, so we'd be looking for a motion.
Mayor, may I? It's a very small thing.
Okay.
On,
Did I look at you funny? I'm sorry.
No, on February 21st in Eau Claire, there's a training provided by the League of Wisconsin Municipalities in regards to this a new application or some sort of software or some sort of guide. It's called a User's Guide to Neighborhood Affordability. It's in the magazine that we have here. I've signed up to attend. If you read the article and you have any questions you'd like to send to me before I go that I could pick up while I'm there, or if you happen to be interested in going as well, I'm going to go to I'm available on the 21st in Eau Claire. The morning session is targeted to basically city council members. The afternoon session is basically set to city officials. And so, at any rate, I wanted to let everybody know that I was planning on attending that, and if you had any questions that I could bring with me there, I would do so. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Colin. And that, I'm sorry, I usually do open it up to anybody else. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to add for the meeting tonight? All right, we'd be looking for a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Hagan, second by Keelan, that we adjourn till our next regular scheduled meeting on March 1st, 2022, subject to call. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. We're adjourned at 7:44 PM. Have a great night, everybody.